Preparation and memorization, two important aspects of being able to deliver an effective speech, presentation, or lecture. We see people presenting topics every day at Toastmasters, in our place of business, and even when we watch television, we will see public speakers. At Toastmasters, we are encouraged to memorize our speeches the further that we get into the program. The perception of being prepared has your audience trust that you are a well-organized speaker or knowledgeable on the subject matter. Good afternoon, fellow Toastmasters and honored guests. As I find myself getting more comfortable with standing up here and delivering a speech, I am struggling with memorization, as you can see from reading my notes. How do actors memorize their scripts, I wonder? How does a server in a restaurant take my order and the order of the people at my table and remember everything? I would definitely struggle with that being a server. By the time I got to the point of sale terminal and had to enter in everybody's order, I would have forgotten who ordered what. This wasn't always the case with me. I used to have an amazing memory. I recall at my first job that I had in my early 20s, I knew everybody in the company by name, where they worked, what city. If I met somebody at work, in my personal life, I would remember their name, their voice, their face. It was stuck with me. And it was great because I knew my customers and I always remembered my last interaction with them. Unfortunately, that is very much the opposite now. I struggle with trying to remember if I sent an email to somebody. So I'm so thankful to have a sent items folder in my email so that I can check if I replied or not. What is this called? It is called digital amnesia. How many of us have been stumped on a question? We went to Google it for the answer. And when you find out the answer, you almost immediately forget the fact that you were looking up. That is actually a symptom of digital amnesia. So I work at a computer all day, and then I go home, I watch TV, I use my iPhone, use my iPad. It's no wonder that my memorization skills are lacking. I now have a problem with retaining information. So what I need to do now is to retrain my brain to remember how do I process information. A few months ago, I was listening to CBC radio on my way home from work, and the topic of the hour was about memory loss. Specifically, it was about dementia and amnesia, but I found it interesting in how the topic was being presented. The interviewer asked the participant to explain how memory loss works, long-term memory loss, I should say. And the interviewee said that think of it like a computer. So when you first buy a computer, it's so fast. You can load all your programs, you can watch videos, and there's like zero waiting for a response. But the older we get, and the older the computer gets, it takes longer to process that information. So certainly age is a factor in memory, long-term and short-term, but probably not to the extent of somebody like me that's still a relatively young person and lacking with memorization. The levity in how I deal with digital amnesia, learning how to deal with it, is that I had to research the information online. Some tips I read were to make smart choices. Use the internet to help with work, maintain connectivity, and keep up with world events. Don't go online, use your phone, iPad, etc., to kill time. Find other ways to use your spare time. We all need to strike a balance in our lives with relationships also. It is far better to maintain connections in life with our friends and family, whether we use the phone to contact them or to talk to them in person. I don't know about you, but for me, I usually go on Facebook at least once a day and I check my news feed and I see what everybody's up to. Those are my Facebook friends. But I'm not typically in the habit of calling my friends and family every day to see what they're up to. While digital amnesia is considered a newer phenomenon, in 2011 there was a joint study between Harvard, Columbia University, and the University of Wisconsin, and they termed the phrase the Google effect. This study focused on millennials, and the millennials were relying on Google for fact-checking instead of retaining the information in their brains. So they were instead remembering where to find particular sets of information online. The study showed their brains may actually have been more efficient in remembering only the most relevant piece of information, rather the where to find it instead of the what the information was. So obviously we are going to continue to live with and use technology. So for myself, I have been trying to find the right balance. Typically, I used to always check the internet at work on my downtime, on my break. Oh, what's going on CBC.ca in the news or CNN? What's going on in social media? Now I don't do that. I just check the internet for work related, and I find other ways to use my time. And I'm trying to shut down my devices earlier at home. I'm getting into the practice of an hour before I go to bed, not looking at my phone, not looking at my computer, and processing the day's events, trying to remember, what did I learn at work? What did I learn in talking to a family member or friend? Trying to remember the important information. While I may be suffering from the effects of digital amnesia, by making myself aware of it and trying to keep my brain engaged with other things might be how I can retrain my brain to remember the things I want. If I can't come up with an answer right away, then I can think about it. Maybe I'll have a minute to think about it so I can find it somewhere in the hard drive stored in my brain. Madam Toastmaster.